Y'all ready? It's a good one today. This episode I call The Mueller Report Scam, Why Donald Trump's Con Keeps Working, and Why Everything is Corrupt. Let's get in it. Welcome to the Black Renaissance, motherfucker.
Welcome to the Smart Black People Podcast, the #1 podcast worldwide for intelligent, ambitious, critical thinking black people who reject the coonery, buffoonery, and general dumb shit and black imagery presented in American media. Now here's your host, uncensored and untamed as always, author, investor, rebel entrepreneur, and the bad boy genius himself, Harkon Ajala.
What's up, peoples? It's your man, Harkon Ajala, a.k.a. the Enlightened Bad Boy Genius. Welcome to the Smart Black People Podcast, where we are all about facts, logic, reason, critical thinking. And today, we got to dive into this whole Mueller report thing. Now, in case you've been living under a rock, Robert Mueller turned in his report a couple of days ago on whether or not there was collusion between Donald Trump's campaign and Russia in trying to interfere with the 2016 presidential election, and also whether Donald Trump or anyone in his administration committed obstruction of justice in trying to delay the report, stop the report, etc. Obstruct justice in any way. Now, the whole way this thing goes down is incredibly odd, weird, and off-putting. So as smart black people, we got to go ahead and dissect this fucking thing, analyze it, and see what's going on, and most importantly, how we need to react and adapt and adjust to it so that we can make sure that we, as always, empower ourselves, put ourselves in the best position. So anyway, the fucking report comes out right away. Donald Trump immediately says it exonerated me because the report did not find that there was collusion between Donald Trump's campaign and Russia. And there also was no obstruction of justice charged against Donald Trump. Now, Donald Trump, of course, has taken a victory lap. But, you know, there are a lot of people today who are shocked and upset and disappointed. Let me just tell you this. I told other people this a long time ago. I knew this was the way this was going to play out. I'm going to tell you why. It does not mean that there was no collusion between Donald Trump or Donald Trump's campaign and Russia. Nor does it mean that Donald Trump didn't obstruct justice. As a matter of fact, Robert Mueller specifically said that he couldn't say that there was obstruction of justice, but he also could not exonerate Donald Trump. Now let's just talk about that for a second. What the fuck does that mean? I can't prove there was obstruction of justice, but I also can't exonerate Donald Trump. I can't say that he didn't obstruct justice. What that means is, it's a sly little way of saying, well, I mean, there's a lot of evidence, or there's some evidence that he obstructed justice, but I don't have enough where I'm comfortable charging him with obstruction of justice. Now, keep this in mind. It was already determined and made clear months ago, a year ago, that you cannot indict a sitting president. Mueller made it clear that he was not going to indict Donald Trump, okay? So much of this shit was a farce. It was a scam. But let's talk about how this went down in order for you to really understand why this whole fucking thing was a charade. Okay, and I'm going to get into why. All right, so here's how this shit went down. I knew something weird was coming because a couple of days ago, after 2 years of fighting tooth and nail over not having this fucking report done and saying it's a charade and a witch hunt and it shouldn't even be done and all this, Donald Trump suddenly gives an interview with reporters and says, yeah, I don't care if they release the report or not, right? Then, suddenly, after an investigation that has taken 2 years, suddenly, Robert Mueller just turns the report in, like on a Friday or a Saturday, maybe, right? Just like on the end of the week, right at the time that you can bury a story. And everybody in media understands this. If you announce shit on Friday, you're trying to basically bury that story and lower the profile of the story, because over the weekend, people go off and do other stuff. They're not really paying attention to the news, etc. Suddenly, out of the blue, after Donald Trump does that, makes that statement, Mueller just turns the report in. But he does a very strange thing. He turns the report in and he leaves it to the Attorney General that Donald Trump, by the way, just appointed, partially because the Attorney General was antagonistic to the Mueller report even being done at all, the Mueller investigation, rather, even being done at all. So Robert Mueller then just suddenly says, I'm done, gives the report to the Attorney General. Mueller doesn't make any recommendations. Or statements about it. Doesn't even hold a press conference. He leaves it to the Attorney General to decide whether there was obstruction of justice. And he leaves it to the Attorney General to summarize the findings. Mueller just fucking hands it in and bounces. Disappears. No press conference, no tweet, nothing. Doesn't say a word. Now, get this. And then we're going to talk about why this happens. After a fucking report that has taken, or I'm sorry, not just a report, but after an investigation that has taken damn near 2 years. 2 years. Who knows how long it is, how many pages long Mueller's report is. But a 2-year investigation has to have taken, which, by the way, led to 34 indictments. We'll talk about that in a second. Okay, has to have taken thousands of pages of work. Mueller hands the report in, and within 2 days, the Attorney General has apparently gone all the way through it and decided, nope, there's no evidence that Donald Trump obstructed justice. Just like that. Two days, he's got a summary all set to go and releases it and says, yeah, everything's cool. Nobody did anything. Donald Trump's campaign didn't do anything. Donald Trump didn't obstruct justice. Now, does that even make a fucking bit of sense to you? A fucking bit of sense. You have the resources, effectively, of the entire United States government being used to conduct this 2-year investigation. The guy turns it in, and another guy takes 2 days, 48 hours, and has a summary ready, and here you go. That's fucking insane. But, again, as I've been saying all along, nothing was ever going to come out of this. Nothing was ever going to come out of this for a very specific reason. Let's talk about the Mueller investigation itself, though. Here's what's interesting. During that 2-year investigation, Mueller indicted 34 people. 34 people. 7 of which were members of Trump's administration. 7 of which were members of Trump's administration. Now let's talk about this. 7 members of Trump's administration were indicted and charged. Roger Stone, Michael Cohen, Paul Manafort, George Papadopoulos, Michael Flynn, Rick Gates, Alex Van der Zaan, I think is the name. Okay, now check this out. Of those 7, 5 of them just pleaded guilty, straight up. Roger Stone pleaded not guilty. He's awaiting trial. Paul Manafort pleaded not guilty, but was found guilty. Okay, so Michael Cohen got 3 years in prison. Michael Cohen was Donald Trump's former attorney for like 20, 30 years. He was charged with making false statements to Congress. He also just recently went and testified before Congress and let Congress know that Donald Trump had paid off Stormy Daniels and the other hooker or whatever to be quiet, that Donald Trump had repeatedly made racist statements, all kinds of crazy shit. And he brought receipts just to make sure people understood that he understood, hey, you might not believe me, so I've got receipts. He bought proof. All right. Paul Manafort, so Michael Cohen was Donald Trump's former attorney. Paul Manafort was the former Trump campaign chair, okay? He was convicted of 2 federal cases involving tax and bank fraud, money laundering, and obstruction. George Papadopoulos was a former Trump campaign aide. He was convicted of lying to the FBI. Michael Flynn was Donald Trump's former national security advisor. He was found guilty of lying to the FBI. Rick Gates, former Trump campaign aide, conspiracy, lying to FBI and special counsel's office. And then Alex Van der Zwaan, lying to FBI. Now, here's what's interesting about this. Donald Trump, remember during his campaign, he says, I'm going to, Washington is corrupt. It's a swamp of corruption. And I'm going to go there and drain the swamp. Remember that? Remember that bullshit? Now, he then goes there without even talking about the fucking chaos that has engulfed his administration since the day he took office. People being fired, quitting, being let go, and writing books about Trump. The dude's not barely through 2 years. He's had like 3-4 books written about him. Steve Bannon was fired or quit or whatever. I mean, it's nuts. And he's had 7 people from his administration fucking indicted on charges. 5 or 6 or 5 of them pled guilty. 6 have been found guilty. And then Roger Stone is still awaiting trial. Does that sound like he's draining the swamp? See, he is the swamp. I've been telling people since the beginning. He's a part of the swamp. He said it himself. I know all of them because I used to buy my way. He said it himself. I know them all because I used to give them all money. He's a part of the swamp, and his administration is the swamp. It's of the swamp. He used the same motherfuckers that were there before and worse. But with all of that, Trump is somehow completely clean. Completely clean. So you think that he's got all these criminals in his administration that he picked, okayed, went to bat for. He said they were all great people. He defended them all. They're all guilty. And you're telling me, even if we don't talk about all the shit, Trump University, him not paying people, the fucking Access Hollywood tape where he's talking about grabbing women by the pussy, even if you take all that out, you mean to tell me that you believe Donald Trump is clean? He hasn't done anything. It's just everybody around him that's part of his administration, right? If you believe that bullshit, I got some oceanfront property here in Indianapolis to sell you. I mean, that shit is ridiculous. No rational person could believe that. Again, we haven't even gotten into the shit that's been revealed by his own attorney, his own personal attorney of 25 to 30 years. Now, but why? Why did it go down like this? Were there 2 years taken on this thing and No collusion between Trump and Russia found. Now, listen. Not only no collusion between Trump's campaign and Russia found, even though we all know about the meetings in Trump Tower between Donald Trump Jr. and Russians where they offered to give dirt on Hillary Clinton, all of this shit, the WikiLeaks stuff, like we already know all of that. So like you can use your common sense and see something was going on. By the way, Mueller also indicted 25 Russians for attempting to, indicted and charged 25 Russians or Russian companies for attempting to meddle with or influence or disrupt the U.S. presidential election in 2016. That happened. Now remember, Trump started off saying there was no interference from Russia. Remember that? There was none. I just won fair and square. Had nothing to do with Russia. Russia didn't try to influence the election. Had nothing to do with it. Remember that? Even when the FBI said, yeah, we found it. Even when the intelligence community and the United States intelligence community said, yeah, we found it. He said, nope, it wasn't there. I don't believe him. I don't believe the intelligence community. Russia had nothing to do with it. Now, he's saying, yeah, Russia had something to do with it, but we didn't collude with them. Well, what changed? I thought they had nothing to do with it. See, he's just a liar and a con man. But I don't want to digress before I make this point. Why did it go down like this? Folks, understand this. There is a power structure in America, like there is in every country. The power structure will never do things to imperil itself. The power structure will never do anything that will too badly shake the belief and faith in the power structure from American citizens and others. Okay? It's not going to take itself down. So there is no fucking way that anybody is going to indict or even say, well, we can't indict the president, but the president did collude with fucking Russia to influence a presidential election. They're not going to say, yeah, the president's campaign colluded with Russia to influence a presidential election. It's not going to happen. That would shake Americans' belief in the entire government, in the entire system, more than it has already, maybe catastrophically. And they are aware of that. There's no way they're ever going to do that. That's why every fucking person with a brain, right? Every reasonable person with a brain knows that JFK, that John F. Kennedy, was not fucking shot by Lee Harvey Oswald. Everybody knows that fucking magic bullet theory is crazy. It's impossible. Everybody knows that. Okay? And yet, do you realize that the U.S. government's official position is still that Oswald shot JFK from the book depository with the fucking magic bullet that, levitated and hung still in the air for 2 seconds and then made all kinds of crazy turns and all this other shit in order to hit Kennedy twice and the other guy, the senator that was in front of him or whatever. Like, that's still the government's official position. Do you know why? Because again, the power structure will never do anything that will shake up people's real faith and belief and confidence in the power structure. It's not going to bring itself down. That's why as many fucking problems, look, the government's official story on 9/11 is still riddled with hundreds of problematic beliefs, assertions, and inconsistencies. And there's literally hundreds of problems with their story. There's all kinds of evidence that it didn't go down the way they say it did, and yet they still stick by it. Y'all can go look up those documentaries. Okay? They still stick by it. They're not going to bring themselves down. So this Mueller report thing was a fucking scam, sham, and charade from the very beginning. This is the only way it was ever going to end. He said a long time ago, he made it known, I'm not going to indict the president. So that's that. So Donald Trump will continue to do what he's always done. He is a fucking liar and professional con man and a bullshit artist. It's what he's always been. And so he will continue to spin this shit and con the people who believe in him and who are going to believe in him no matter what. And let me tell you why. Let me tell you why Donald Trump's con continues to work. It's because Donald Trump, like I said, he's a lifelong, and a very accomplished con man and bullshit artist. And he understands two things about the average person in America. Number one, the average person is a simple thinker. They do not think deeply. They do not think for themselves. They want things to be simple, and that's the only way they're going to look at things. Anything complex, convoluted, anything that takes time to think through, or God forbid, takes any amount of real research. And by research, I mean real research, not fucking logging on to Facebook and seeing what, the latest person from your particular political beliefs silo, okay? If it's not simple, the average person is not fucking with it. They want simple ideas, simple solutions, and they think simply. Number two, they have a short fucking attention span. By the way, if you don't believe that, just know that science has determined that the average person's attention span is now officially shorter than a goldfish. I told my wife that. She's like, I don't believe it. Well, you can go look it up. The average person's attention span is now officially shorter than a goldfish's attention span. So you see, all con men and con women, all bullshit artists like Donald Trump know these two things. People are simple thinkers. They don't think for themselves. And they have short attention spans. So what Donald Trump does, what he'll continue to do, and what he's always done, is to craft very simple lies, repeat that shit very loudly over and over and over again, because people will tend to buy simple shit. So, this is just a witch hunt. This is just a witch hunt by my political enemies. He'll just say that over and over and over again. A lot of people will just start to believe it because it's simple. Simple, concise, quick. And they don't have to think about it. Oh, okay, I get it. Yeah, your enemies are after you. It's a witch hunt. And people's fucking attention span is short as fuck. So what will he do? He will continue to repeat the short, simple, concise lie until he can shift your attention to the next thing. Because he knows your attention span is so short that when they wave a new shiny ball in front of your face, you just forget about the other thing. Let's talk about it. Let me show you. You don't have to believe me. Think about this shit. Think about what Donald Trump has done. Let's just start. During his campaign, remember, I'll release my tax returns eventually. Still hasn't released them. Once my audit is over, oh, I'm being audited. I can't release him. I can't release him while I'm being audited. Well, that was proven false. He can release him. Not only can he release them while he's being audited, but other presidential candidates have released their tax returns while they're being audited. Okay? When's he going to release his tax returns? He gave you a bullshit lie and then moved on. Most of you have forgotten about it. He still hasn't released them 2 years plus in. Then, remember the Access Hollywood tape? Grab him by the pussy? Oh, it was just locker room talk. And then he moved on. Y'all went crazy until something new came along, and then you just kind of forgot about it. He made fun of the disabled reporter. Moved on. Y'all forgot about it. Remember, he mocked the Gold Star military family or whatever? Moved on, gave you a bullshit excuse. Oh, no, I didn't mock him. Moved on. Y'all forgot about it. Remember the inauguration fucking fiasco? He tells you, oh, I had the biggest inauguration audience of all time. It was 5 times bigger than Obama's or whatever. You looked at it. Your eyes told you, holy fuck, it's about a third the size of Obama's, maybe 1/4 the size of Obama's. He's like, that's bullshit. It's a lie. That's fake news. And then he moved on to something else. Y'all forgot about it. This is what Trump has been doing his whole life. Like he's moved on from all his bankruptcies. He moved on from his fraud, Trump University. Gave you a bullshit excuse and moved on. Stormy Daniels, he paid the chick off. He moved on from it. He's got, 7, 8, 9, 10, 15 women accusing him of sexual abuse. He called them all liars. Moved on to something new. All these people in his administration, half of them going to jail. He told you they were great people. They were found guilty of crimes and on their way to jail. He just moved on. He gives you a simple lie to shit that is actually complex oftentimes. When there's a complex situation, it takes complex thinking. He'll give you a simple lie for a few days, and then he'll move you on to something else. Oh, look at this. Look at that. It's misdirection. It's what magicians and illusionists use to pull the audience's attention from what they're doing, the trick itself, how they do the trick. They misdirect your attention over to something else. That's Trump, baby. He's an illusionist. He's a bullshit artist. He's a con man. And he knows that as long as he can give you a simple lie and then move on quickly, you'll forget about it, even when he's caught lying. Remember before he was elected, the whole lock her up. Yeah, and if I'm elected, I'm going to appoint a special prosecutor and throw Hillary Clinton's ass in jail for all her crimes. As soon as the fucker got elected, he's like, I'm not going to do that. I don't need to do that. And he moved on. He just literally laughs at you. You people who are his supporters, he just fucking laughs at you all the time. He stood right in front of you, right in front of a crowd of his supporters and said, and you love me no matter what. I could shoot somebody in the middle of Fifth Avenue in New York, Times Square or whatever, and you still would support me. He said that out loud to you, his supporters, to a crowd of his supporters. And y'all just was like, oh, okay. Just stood there. Like a whore does with a pimp. When he says, bitch, you ain't shit without me. And whatever I do, you just going to like it. Whether I lie to you or not, you just going to like it. And the whore's like, oh, okay, daddy. That's how Trump treats his supporters. That's what con men do. Con men don't love the marks that they pull the con on. They have nothing but scorn for them. They're marks. They're like, these dumb fuckers. I can fool them every time and they don't get it. They actually believe me. That's why his con keeps working. He's been doing it his whole life. He's been doing it every day that he's been president, and he'll do it for as long as he's president and for as long as he's alive. That's who he is. And guess what? Just like P.T. Barnum famously said, there's a sucker born every minute. Or You can fool some of the people all of the time. You can't fool all of the people all the time. You can't fool some of the people any of the time, but you can fool some of the people all of the time. That's how con men and bullshit artists and malignant narcissists like Donald Trump, that's their game. That's how they ply their wares. That's how they do their thing. That's why Donald Trump's con keeps working. And that's why, let me just tell you, as smart black people, you have to understand this and not get too caught up in it. Because the other reason that this type of shit goes down all the time, over and over, is because everything's corrupt. Ice Cube, most recent release, his album came out a couple months ago, I believe. And the title of it was Everything's Corrupt. It's a pretty good album, by the way. But understand, here's the truth. There's a flaw. Like every system, every philosophy, everything has a pro and a con, an upside and a downside, a light side and a dark side. There's always a flaw there. One of the flaws of a capitalist system, okay, is that the profit motive in everything. When everything is based on the profit motive, somebody wants to make profit, somebody wants to get ahead, somebody wants to benefit from it. When you have that profit motive driving everything, it corrupts everything. Unfortunately, doesn't mean every person is corrupt. But just about every person is corruptible because the system is suspect, or should I say prone to corruption, because the simple fact of the matter is, like take America. Everything's corrupt because everybody's trying to make money with just about everything they do. That's why the Donald Trumps of the world can do what they do. That's why you can have this charade like this Mueller investigation and report. And that's why the media will roll with it. They'll roll with it because everybody is trying to make money. Everybody's trying to make a profit. So they will do whatever will make money, whatever will make a profit. And everybody has a stake in the system, in upholding the system, in keeping the system going. Everybody depends on it. So even though the system may be corrupt, nobody wants to see it brought down. Not the people who are part of the government, not the people who are part of the power structure, not the people who are reporting on the power structure, trying to uncover corruption. They don't want the whole thing to come down. They have jobs. Their job depends on having something to report about, right? The media, people love to blame the media. Oh, the media is trying to put forth this narrative or that narrative. Let me tell you what the media is doing. The media is trying to make money like every other institution. So you see, the media is giving you what you want. What they're doing is they are doing whatever it takes to get your attention so that they can sell advertising. That's what the media is doing. So you see, if your attention went to positive things, if you put your attention only on positive things, that's what the media would be reporting. Trust me. But you don't. The public doesn't. The average person responds to salacious shit. The average person responds to drama. The average person responds to controversy. The average person responds to scandal. The average person responds to violence. The average person responds to conflict. It's a part of human nature that you have to actively and consciously control in yourself. And most people don't. So because the average person responds to those things, that's what you see in the media. And, I hear people say, I can't believe that in a country of 300 million people, these are the best two candidates we can get. These are the people who become our politicians. Do you know why? Let me tell you why. You see, America gets the politicians, not that it needs, not that it wants, but that it deserves. You see, the Donald Trumps, the Hillary Clintons, whoever you want to talk about. People say, I'm so sick of negative advertising. Why do they always use negative advertising? Because you say you're sick of it, but it's what you respond to. It's what people respond to. Or else they'd be using positive advertising. People say, I want to see positive stuff, but tell the truth. The positive person in the office, the person that's always positive and cheery and happy and in a great mood, y'all hate that motherfucker. Y'all like, oh my God, here comes this Pollyanna motherfucker. Oh my God, it's Monday morning, it's early. Why the fuck you so excited and happy in a good mood? It pisses you off. It pisses you off. Y'all don't go to see movies about Mr. Rogers. Y'all go to see movies about gangsters. Y'all don't show up to see movies about Mother Teresa and Gandhi. Y'all didn't even really show up to see the movie about Martin Luther King or Malcolm X. Y'all show up to see movies about serial killers and gangsters. Am I right or am I wrong? Criminals, depraved people. So you see, we love to project outwardly the problems onto the media or the government or whoever. But as Brother Jordan Peele so brilliantly broached in his new movie, our own worst enemy is really us. It's us. It's not them. It's not the people we project our issues onto. It's us. It's us. And if we don't come to terms with that shit, if we don't turn the, Michael Jackson said, the man in the mirror. I'm starting with the man in the mirror. A powerful song, a powerful message. If we don't actually look internally, turn our critical eye on ourselves and say, hey, what am I doing? What do I need to improve? What do I need to change? How do I need to grow in order to become better? Gandhi, I believe it was Gandhi who said, be the change in the world you want to see. See, we want to talk about everybody else outward, but it's us. Jordan Peele nailed it. It's us. So the reason that, look, people want to make Donald Trump the demon. And guess what? He is. He is that. But he didn't elect himself. See, that's the thing. He's the devil, but he didn't elect himself. People want to point at Donald Trump and say, look at everything wrong with him. And it's all true. But he's not the problem. The honest truth is, the problem is, there's a whole lot of motherfuckers in the United States of America that clearly vibe with and resonate with him, resonate with the devil. I just gave you examples of that shit. There's plenty of people who are attracted to it. That's why Donald Trump is the president. He's the president America deserves. Y'all had the good guy right before him. All you did was bitch and complain. A lot of black people included. Well, now you got the bad guy. And it's who you wanted. So you see, it's not the government and the politicians and the media and the churches and etc. that are all corrupt. It's us. It's the people who continually and consistently consume those messages, products, services. It's the people who gravitate towards and co-sign on all that shit. None of those things can operate without the general public buying into it. You feel me? Trust me. If 300 million people, or let's say this, if 299,900,000 people want things to go a certain way, they can change things. They can overpower 100,000 people. You with me? I'm not talking about physically. I'm just saying they can decide, no, we want it differently. And they can make it different. But they have to make the decision to. So you see, you got to start with the man in the mirror. Everything is corrupt because we have not made the decision to do the work that's necessary to make sure we're not corrupt. I'm not saying it's easy. It's not. It definitely takes effort. It definitely takes focus. It definitely takes attention. It definitely takes some willpower and a strong enough desire to defer gratification and to also resist some temptation some fucking time to say, look, I really feel like getting embroiled in this hatred or this conflict or this negative shit, but I'm gonna fight that and make a different decision and move towards the positive. That's what it takes, because otherwise we're gonna keep getting what we're getting unless we decide to become someone different. Now, I can imagine that this may not be where you anticipated this podcast was gonna go, but look, as I've been saying from the very beginning, as black people, what you're going to see, or what you do see when you look around and you listen, is that we spend 99% of our time often just identifying and talking about and lamenting the problems, and maybe 1% of the time talking about solutions. Well, see, smart black people don't do that. And that's not what the Smart Black People podcast, Smart Black People TV, that's not what the Smart Black People media empire is built on. Everything that we do is focused 90% on the solutions. What are the solutions? How do we fix it? What can we do to make it better? What can we do to empower ourselves? Not just keep talking about how we're disempowered. What can we do to enfranchise ourselves? Not just always keep talking about how we're disenfranchised. Look, white supremacy exists. Racism exists. Discrimination exists. No doubt about it. Instead of talking about that ad nauseum, though, because what the fuck what's news? Yeah, it's here. It's always been here in this country. Instead of just talking about it ad nauseum and allowing it to become a self-fulfilling prophecy where we're so busy looking for it that we see it everywhere, even when it may not be there. See, it doesn't matter the fact that it's there. We already know that as a fact. Instead of continually doing that, we got to say, how do we overcome it? And don't give me the bullshit about it can't be overcome. Oh, it's too strong. It's everywhere. It can't be overcome, because we have ancestors who have had victories over white supremacy in worse times with us. Any black person that accomplished anything of note, even just 25 years ago, it was harder then than it is now. Period. We still got fucking rampant white supremacist shit that's systematically entwined in the American system. But I assure you, as a black person, 2019 is the best time you could be here. You feel me? You want to try 1919? How about 1819? You think you'd be better off in 1719? Or how about 1619? When the first slaves, or the first Africans who were kidnapped and enslaved, landed here. You think it'd be easier then? Not even logical, right? So this is the best it's ever been. We got to make it better for ourselves. We do that by talking about finding solutions, and then most importantly, taking action to make those solutions come to life. I appreciate you having been here. As always, make sure you subscribe. Make sure you share this podcast. Make sure you go over to YouTube and check out our videos on Smart Black People TV. Become a subscriber. And I also ask you to support us with a small donation, whatever you can, because we want to make sure that this message, we want to make sure that intelligent, empowering information is spread around the world to black people everywhere, just like, and to combat the disempowering, dumbass misinformation that we get way too much of. I appreciate you as always. Remember, stay black, stay rich, stay sexy, stay happy, stay smart. And I will see you in the next one. Don't ever forget the Smart Black People credo. Extract the emotion, inject the intelligence, and nobody's going to save us but us. Peace.
Thank you for listening to the Smart Black People podcast with your untamed host, Harkon Ajala. Please get exclusive VIP content, secret high-end wealth-building videos, bonus Q&As and how-to videos, and support our mission to provide empowering, intelligent, anti-coon media content for Black people on the rise by going now to www.smartblackpeople.com/rise up. Thank you again, and remember, nobody's going to save us but us.